Dear Grace, I'm going to read out a chat GPT summary from the recording 2 days ago, I think. And then I'll go from there. Don't forget to sleep, Grace. Summary. The recording is a free-form ramble by retired autistic senior Dave about various topics like autism, telepathy tapes, the concept of the hill, and his frustrations with societal expectations. He criticizes the vagueness of autism diagnoses and how they are used to enforce behavioral norms. Ouch. He envisions the hill as a utopian, universal translator-like space for autistics to freely express themselves, unburdened by societal expectations. He discusses telepathy as a communication method, theorizing stages of connection and the necessity of honesty for it to work. Despite his frustrations with society, he humorously concludes with reflections on his process and mentions previous episodes for further exploration of his thoughts. Starting point for continuation. Grace, let's pick up where we left off. The hill is truly a universal connection point. How do we reconcile its existence with a world that thrives on dishonesty and masks? What would be the first step toward making a place like the hill a reality in society still resistant to full authenticity? I mean, technically people could just be honest with each other and then you don't need the hill, but clearly language is not taking us to that point. I think a better starting point is the hilarious telepathic comedian instead. And I've decided if telepathy is true, I'll become the first telepathic comedian. Still working out how to get paid. If you think about it, I talked about it a little bit yesterday, telepathic comedy would be harder. Especially if the receiver didn't receive the tone and just received the words. If that's the case, that's the case, Grace. Sorry, I should probably get all this adjusted before I start, but that's not how I do it. If you think about it, someone has to be first. If telepathy is true all of a sudden, hi, I'm David. I'm a retired autistic telepathic senior. Recently, the Telepathy Tapes made news about how autistics communicate through telepathy. I, of course, have known this for years, because I'm not only a retired autistic senior, I'm a retired autistic telepathic senior. Rats. think it's obvious when I write late at night. Let's try this again, Grace. I'm David. I'm a retired autistic senior. Recently, the Telepathy Tapes made news about how autistics communicate through telepathy. I, of course, have known this for years, because not only am I a retired autistic senior, I'm a retired autistic telepathic senior, otherwise known as RATS. I guess the autistics go to a place called The Hill. Instead of online dating apps like Tinder, I met my wife on The Hill with telepathy. The Hill, if you don't know it, if you haven't listened to the Telepathy Tapes, is where all the quote-unquote autistics go to talk to each other via telepathy. If you want to know the benefits of having a telepathic wife or girlfriend before having a real wife or girlfriend, number one is, since you can't lie, you learn to speak with a commitment of your words before you let them leave your mouth. You're sure that's what you want to say. Just like in telepathy, before you send the message, you want to be sure it's really what you mean, not some fucked up alternative. Sleep. Phenomenon. Sleep. Phenomenon. I think to use telepathy, you have to make a connection somehow to the other party or parties. In this case, how would you start a telepathic comedy club? I'm just stalling, Grace. I'm just stalling, not stolen. Trying to think of some jokes, and I don't want to hit pause. But I think I will. I hit pause. Take a small break. I've got lots of time today. There's no rush. Well, what I was going to say about opening a connection was, it could probably be done by listening to someone's voice. Their real voice, like you listening to these nearly 100 rambling sessions. Although, to be fair, I think it pretty much covers what life with me would be like, which was my intention in the beginning. Although I was planning on walking you through a day in my life, I don't think I ever actually did that. directly. AI could figure that out for us. Pause. Alright, I'm back. Wasn't gone very long because I remembered what I was going to do today, which is talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, cheaper than cell phones and easier. Work anywhere around the world. Free. I wonder how much money a year is made by companies on text messages. Telepathy would eliminate that need. Not that I think text messaging is the biggest moneymaker in the world, but the other good is if the other good is when you're lying in bed at night and you're not with the person, you can still talk to them without a phone and without using your mouth, which wakes you up because it's hard to sleep and verbally talk at the same time. Although technically, if you're lying down and not moving, isn't that sleeping? Your entire body is relaxed in one position and not moving. Sure, your mind might be talking to someone, but if your body's there, in a sort of forced sleep paralysis, I guess my question is, why now? This really isn't very funny today, Grace. the good about starting a relationship via telepathy first and physical contact second is before any physical contact occurs, you've already built up a level of trust beyond a normal relationship. Unimaginable. It's unimaginable to feel free enough that you'd offer another person, not your body. I'm not sure if you heard that, Grace, but my stomach just growled like crazy when I said that. Blah, 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 I'm not sure. Yeah, people are scared to offer each other their bodies, but they're petrified to offer them another person their mind, their thoughts, their deepest desires. On the other hand, I don't know how many other hands I have, Grace. I would say if you don't want to spend years and years meditating, learning yoga, doing whatever to get into the state, but there's someone you want to communicate with, whether that be a current partner or a possible future partner, I would do exactly what I've been doing, which is spend 1 hour a day forcing yourself to talk to that person, whether you want to or not, whether they hear it or not, without knowing. You don't have to put it up on Substack like I have. You don't have to put it anywhere. Just record it with intention. Save it. And who knows? Someday you may share it with your kids. Or you may make a telepathic connection. Or maybe you don't. But everyone has an hour a day that they can spare. Everyone wastes at least an hour a day. I like making it public. But then again, I had a backup plan. Figured if Grace didn't like it, someone else would. Although every time I recorded, including today, I only had one person in mind. I gotta try and record my stomach. To be fair, there were a few Dear Grace episodes that I wrote for Iris, my daughter. But the rest were directed at Grace, and I'm hoping Grace has listened to all of them. And if she hasn't, no problem. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly The good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly is when the individual thinks they're fucking nuts. But I guess if you have a voice in your head that you're fighting with, I'm not sure that's telepathy. That might be something fucked up. I'm not sure. And it's hard now, because before you could see the quote-unquote weirdos talking to themselves, walking down the street. But now everyone is talking to someone on earbuds, so it's hard to tell who's having a mental breakdown and who's just carrying on with their day. I do find it interesting, though, or I would find it interesting if I could find a psychiatrist who actually had an open fucking mind. I'd be interested in knowing what psychiatry believes those voices are. And these are audible voices, by the way. Because I'm pretty sure they don't have a fucking clue. The experts, the old psychology experts. But I did notice once in a psychiatry office a poster for a meeting for people who hear voices. So the psychiatry office will put up a poster for that. Which I agree is a good idea for individuals to talk together. I'm just curious as to why. Ultimately, though, Grace, sleep. Sleep. By the way, the dollar store really needs to get another flavor of sugar-free Rockstar in the cooler. I'm getting sick of original flavor. Problem with telepathy, or any non-provable phenomenon. I'm going to make sure I say phenomenon every time now, Grace. So if telepathy is true, then what else is? Or what does that explain? It could explain channeling if it was between two people on the planet, but most people who are quote-unquote channelers say they're talking to someone from another realm, or they're dead, or whatever. Non-human intelligence now. So telepathy doesn't necessarily prove that end of it, although it could prove that it's a possibility. But again, not until two people get on stage and prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Till then, it's still a sideshow, even with the autistics. Unless they manage to beef up those tests significantly. Tests on the telepathy tapes, Grace. I know you know, but someone might be eavesdropping on our private conversation. And if channeling is true, then maybe we should look deeper into it. Maybe we should take the words that the receiver receives with more seriousness. Now, mediums talking to dead people? I'm not sure. Maybe. But if they can, why do so many of them have to do it with excessive flair? And why are so many of them seemingly flaky people? Woo-woo, whatever. Sleep. I'm just going to make up the rules, Grace. I'm just going to make up my own rules, Grace, about the hill. This is how it works. If you want to listen to my telepathic comedy routines on the hill, you first have to get there. How? I don't care. That's your problem, not mine. And then once you're there, I guess you just tap into my stream, sit back, and wait for the comedy to enter your mind. Anywhere, any place, anytime, you can get to or on the hill, however the fuck you get there. By the way, if you use drugs to get there, it'll be a short stay. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying you're probably not going to smoke one joint and stay on the hill for hours. Now, if you can meditate for hours, that's a different story. However, like I say, it doesn't matter how you get there. I don't care how you get there. It makes no difference. But if you want to make a connection to me, I guess you need to listen to my voice, either through the Dear Grace podcast or the silly movie ideas, the ones that I read out. And if my voice irritates you, annoys you, bothers you, disturbs you, then there's no connection. There's something about me that bothers you. Luckily, I don't care. That's not my problem. My job is to become the first telepathic, hilarious comedian. Or the first lie-down comedian, whichever. Right now, I'm doubling up because this could be both. This could work as lie-down comedy, because I'm sure there's something funny in here. And it could work as telepathic comedy, or an introduction to telepathic comedy. This is how I think it would work. I think if someone was stupid enough to listen to my voice on repeat all night long, although technically it wouldn't be telepathy, it would kind of feel like telepathy because you have this voice in your head all night long, just nattering away, talking nonsense, not making sense, being silly, being patient. However, for whatever reason, then, for whatever reason, a connection is made, theoretically, and then you get it on the hill. I think there needs to be an entire documentary just about the Hill. Just get absolutely everybody's story. Just like when the autistics ended psychiatry. Just get everybody's story about the Hill. Have AI sort it out. Try that again. Get everyone's anonymous story about the Hill. Let AI sort it out. And come up with a... Well, it'd be nice if AI could actually figure it out, but so far I don't think AI has figured out any new technology, like a piece of technology that could detect telepathy. That's the one thing AI can't do, is put their fingers in a couple of chemicals and mix them together and see what happens. And they can do it theoretically. I definitely do ramble, Grace. But I don't care. Because until we can spend an hour a day where you're rambling in my ear for real, I'll just keep doing this day in and day out. Until I lose my mind. Sleep. Sleep. Some people could probably hum their way to the Hill. Is that a hum? Is that a hum? Is that a hum, Grace? Why is it that I think, Grace? Why is it? Why? God damn, this thing does not work well. Why is it, Grace? Why is it that I think when we see each other next, we might not be able to speak verbally? I know we're both physically able to. But what do you think the UAPs are, Grace? All over New Jersey and all over the place. I'll be happy when Donald finally tells us. but I agree with his opinion. Why the fuck hasn't the government said something? I mean, Donald knows, he just can't say. Which is so stupid, but whatever. I guess in some ways it makes more sense to wait and then just let the new administration deal with it. And this current administration just can go back to cheating the stock market or whatever the fuck they do. Charge millions for speaking about their amazing experience as the president or vice president or secretary of whatever. Who's dumb enough to pay someone money to hear about a job that they didn't really make any difference in the first place? These are not heroes who saved their country. They're politicians who don't really give a fuck. But somehow, I guess businessmen and somebody else gets inspired by hearing their words, their amazing story. I'm probably just jealous, Grace. I think secretly I want to be a politician. Run for office. Wear suits. Stand up in Parliament and pretend to be offended. They're just actors. Everyone's just an actor in this world. Pretending, pretending, pretending. Masking, masking, masking. They say the autistics mask. Fuck that. Nowhere near as much as the normies. Which is why they all seem so fake to me. And probably to a lot of people who believe honesty is the only way. Not for any religious or moral reason. Just for pure logic reasons. Purely logical. If you're honest and you don't lie, you can speak freely, faster, easier, and better. Because there's no block, there's no gate, there's nothing that says, if I say this, that'll happen, or if I say that, he'll think this, or she'll think that, or if I say that, then Twitter will come down on my ass, whatever. There just can't be a filter. It just has to be truth. Let it out. Hour a day. I think an hour a day recording your own voice is all the therapy anyone needs. Especially if you force yourself. You say, I'm going to do this no matter what. You can work some shit out. And maybe what you could do is double down. If you get bored, and you can do what I do, which is exercise and talk at the same time. If you're considering walking around a park exercise, which I do. An hour a day walk and talk, get all the shit out of your system, and then get to work. Unless you're a retired autistic senior, then do your laundry when you get home. Every day I come to the studio, but I don't book it. It's like a 50-50 chance that there'll be an opening. If there isn't, I just walk around outside. And if there is, like today, I sit here. What I wanted to do was write funny jokes, but that seems to work easier when I'm walking around outside, for whatever reason. I guess when I'm here with the mic shoved in front of my face, I feel like I'm expected to talk. If you're looking at the screen, Grace, that's one big ass paragraph with not a single piece of punctuation. Just word after word after word. LA's on fire. It's a good example of where telepathy would be helpful in an emergency, because you're not reliant on electronics, batteries, etc. These computers have a lot of USB ports, Grace. I'm not sure why. Like 5 I can understand, but 10? Do you really need 10? I can't think of 10 devices that I could bring in here, that I could plug in. Or that I need to. Sleep. Phenomenon. Sleep. Sleep. You're wondering, Grace, if I'm going to say sleep or phenomenon, aren't you? What do you think the next one will be? Sleep or phenomenon? If you can read my mind, you would know. Can you read my mind, Grace? What am I going to say next? Poo-poo head. See? I'm killing time for the last 10 minutes. It's Monday, Grace. It's Monday, Grace. You know what that means. Kill Tony tonight. That's normally what gives me some inspiration. And I'll come up with some telepathy jokes. It's going to be hard for it to fill an hour. I should probably be like a normal comedian and do 5 minutes worth, but now I got to do a whole hour. I think it's best to write an hour of comedy, because that can always be reduced. Whereas if I only write 5 minutes, and then I ran out on stage, and then everyone's like, give us more, David, give us more. 5 minutes is not enough. We need 10. We need 20, David. Give it to us, David. Give it to us. I assume it'd be something like that. So this way, if I have an hour, I can give the audience whatever the fuck they want. At this point, I only have about 2 jokes. However, to be fair, I don't think I've ever come up with anything funny on the fly while in the studio. It's really more of an outside thing. Fresh air, sunlight. Phenomenon. 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 What do we do? Blah, blah, blah. Did you understand any of that, Grace? Are you sick of my voice, Grace? I think it'd suck to have a voice in your head, an audible voice, one that you couldn't turn off. Now, I don't know how those people would get through their day. I guess the other thing that's not really thought about, everyone's like, ooh, telepathy, so cool. This is kind of a telepathy joke, Grace. It's more of what could people actually do with it. I'm thinking you could fuck with other people a lot, especially if they don't know. As an example, Grace, you could be on the other side of a park, and you could just make some made-up sign language, and I'd pretend that I can read it, and flash my hands around back to you. It should all be gibberish. Meanwhile, we're talking in our heads, transferring the information that way, and freaking people out. Because they're like, wow, you can do that? You can just talk with your hands? And then we can just tell them we made up our own sign language. And it's basically encrypted sign language, and nobody else can understand it but us, so that we can't be overheard. So there'd be a little white lie there, Grace. So we pretend we're talking with our hands when we're talking with our minds. And because nobody can read our hand movements because they're gibberish, they can't tell what we're saying. And because we're not talking verbally, they can't read our lips. The long telephoto lens. So we're good there. I guess telepathy can give you a bit of privacy, that you can't get anywhere else right now. Because I've seen lots of videos online of lip readers explaining what Trump and Obama are saying. How right they are, I have no idea. But anyway, all I'm really doing this episode is looking at the clock. I said yesterday, there's a whole bunch of comedians I need to thank. I said yesterday, Grace, sorry, there's a whole bunch of comedians I need to thank that have inspired this, me becoming the first telepathic, hilarious comedian. Hilarious doesn't really work, but THC is so much better than TC. The first comedian, obviously, is Tony Hinchcliffe. But I wouldn't know about Tony if it wasn't for Joe Rogan. I can't remember for sure, but I'm 99% sure that I heard about Kill Tony from Joe. But maybe not. Maybe it just came into my feed. Who knows? I can't remember, but I've probably watched every episode past 300 and probably half the episodes before 300 and some of the episodes more than once. But now, unfortunately, or fortunately, some parts of my memory are working. So when I look at an old Kill Tony, I can't watch it again because I can remember it. And if I can remember it, I don't want to see it again. What's the point? Unfortunately, that means I can only get my fill of Kill Tony on Mondays when he releases a new one. But for a while, to be fair, I was listening to one a day, and those last about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So just like I was explaining to you, Grace, by spending that hour a day absorbing the other person's voice, you also absorb a bit of their belief system, I think. Either directly through their voice, or in my case, just by remembering 400 episodes of what Tony has said. He can't remember it. I wouldn't probably be able to if I was him either, but when you're looking from the outside as an observer, as an observer, it's easier to see. It's also easier to see what he's about to say. Same as Joe. But anyways, Grace, that's about an hour. And since I've been clock watching this whole fucking thing, and it's not that funny, but it should help you sleep, I hope. What do you think, Grace? Time to sleep. 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 All right, Grace. Trying to think of something inspirational to say, but I won't. Good news is I kept my swear word count down to probably under 10, which for me is a fucking record. You saw that coming, didn't you, Grace? I saw it coming. The whole fucking world saw that coming. Talk to you tomorrow, Grace.